Welcome back to another episode of the Our Sustainable World podcast, a series where we travel around the world and interview some of the most innovative entrepreneurs and businesses tackling some of the most challenging sustainability problems we face today. We continue our journey in Kenya at Port Victoria on the banks of Lake Victoria, of course. And there's something fishy about this episode this week because today we're joined by the founder and CEO of Hydro Victoria Fish Farms, Fred Juma. Fred, welcome.
Thank you so much, Nick. Pleasure to have me.
And thank you for hosting us so well in Port Victoria.
Thank you. Welcome. Feel most welcome.
And could you just explain to me, who is Hydro Victoria? What is the mission?
Hydro Victoria is a social enterprise that was registered in 2018 and in Kenya, located in Kenya, Busia County. And we have been, it's formed as a startup through partnership with three partners. That is the Elizabeth, Frederick, there are two Fredericks here, and Elizabeth, who we are working together as colleagues to be able to impact the society. We are looking at the sector's challenges where we realize one of the major challenge is food nutrition in the region, where most of the farmers or fisher communities in the area have been depending on the lake, and Kenya has only 6% of this Lake Victoria. And over time, indications are showing that there's a decline in fish, and we started thinking of doing aquaculture as one of the practices. And we set up cages in the water, and we started looking at the issues and challenges that affect some of the aquaculture farmers. And that's the reason why we set up Hydro Victoria Fish Farm, as the name suggests.
That's great, thanks, Fred. And can you just explain to us what the problem is that you're trying to solve? Why is the challenge of the reduction in the number of fish in the lake and the cost of producing food in general such a big issue?
Lake Victoria is one of those shared ecosystem boundary that natural resource that is shared between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And Kenya has only access to about 6% of that lake. The rest of 40% Uganda and 51% to Tanzania. And for years, that the main activities that have been happening along the region has been more of capture fisheries. And this has actually, as the population grows, we have realizing sudden drop in the number of catch fish that are landing at the shore. And the community around here and also in other places have been depending on this lake. Actually, in the Kenyan side, over 1 million people depend on the lake as a source of livelihood, either through supply of fish, trade, or other businesses that depend on fisheries. And because of this decline, which has been informed so much by high population and use of illegal gears in the capture fishery activities and poor policy because it's a shared resource across the countries in the region, and also the fact that the national government was not giving it so much of a priority. We have seen this decline, and it's not just unique to Lake Victoria alone, but we are seeing this globally. Even in the ocean, capture fisheries is declining, actually as late as 2015, 2017. Because now aquaculture has taken over. Now, when you look at it in that perspective, we start thinking of how do the people living in this ecosystem survive moving forward, because population will always rise, they'll always need more food, and how do we look at some of these opportunities that are coming up?
So Fred, we were just interrupted during the interview there with someone bringing some tea and chapati for us, which was very much needed. I was hungry and needed some tea. But you were just talking about the rise in population and the issue around food security as well. And it kind of got me thinking around, there's 1 million people that you said that rely on the economy of the lakeside. What was it like for you growing up in this area And how did that influence your interest in this particular field?
Yeah, indeed, one of the challenges, as I mentioned earlier, is high population growth as well as the increased demand for food with this growing population. And having grown in this area, brought up and raised up in this area as a child of a fisherman, and also as one of the people who, even through my early childhood in primary schools, I could see that this is what is keeping us alive as a community. And after going to college and all the way, I started thinking about the community. How does it survive moving forward? Because through education, I've been exposed to issues like climate change is happening, population is rising. There are so many drivers that are really affecting the livelihood of people moving into the future. So I thought of thinking of how do we come up with technologies or practices that will be more sustainable for the livelihood of these people in the lake region, having seen surely that the indicators are showing the decline in fish. And one of the things I thought is probably if we could address it through food system approach, where we are collaborating between the government, county governments, the national government, the NGOs that are around, as well as the business entrepreneurs, the farmers, to be brought on board. And that's when we thought of setting up I think it was the first private fish farm in the county. Of course, there were other farms driven by the government, but we thought that having the private sector driven kind of aquaculture is a better practice because it's more sustainable and more people can easily be, because even a farmer, a basic farmer, crop farmer, poultry farmer, that sometimes they do these things for business. What they feed on, sometimes they sell. And looking into the future, we are able to set up a hatchery, private fish hatchery, so that we can sustain the cage culture, that the cage fish farming that we had already set up in the cages. We realized that when we set up the cages, we set up about 10 of them cages, and the fingerlings were not available. We could go as far as 600 kilometers to go and get the fingerlings. And that is the small fish that we stock in the cages or ponds, so that we can now feed them up to maturity. After 8 months we harvest. So having gone through those, exposed to the reality of this sector that is promising, lack of fingerling, we also realize that feed, aquaculture requires a lot of feed, because you cannot keep one fish. You can only keep thousands to be a reasonable farmer. However, when you look at the poultry sector, you can keep one chicken. For the pig farmer, you can pick 3, 4 if you are a farmer. Or a dairy farmer can keep even one cow and is doing like 80, 40 liters of milk, depending on the type of the cow. So we started seeing that these challenges in the sector to grow are like lack of capacity to train, to understand how aquaculture can be done, input supply in terms of the feed and fingerling supply, market was also becoming an issue because people are used to selling to each other, but now with aquaculture, you are likely to produce more and need to sell to higher end market. So we are able to set up this enterprise from a social perspective, that we can be able to grow together with the community, learn, transfer knowledge. And for sure, we are able to influence. In fact, after setting up the first hatchery, 2, 3 more hatcheries have come up after learning from some of the activities we are doing. And also, initially working with the county government was not very easy, because they are used to doing things their way, the government style. But now a private sector coming in and it's local and he wants to influence the community. Around COVID, by the year 2020, where we had more time space on the farm, we realized that farmers are not buying our fingerlings on the farm. And also our fish is not getting the market. And we started thinking of what could be the challenges. And we realized that for the input supply, where farmers are expected to buy fingerlings from us and continue farming, one of the major underpinning was actually lack of feed. The distribution network that was there, that was thriving, that was working, collapsed during the COVID because of dependency on a cross-border shipment of ingredients, both to the millers and also the millers are located in cities. And here they need to transport the goods to the shore, the rural where farmers are doing fish farming. So the normal approach they use through aggregate system, where it comes from the miller, distributor, then to the aggregate. Then all of a sudden, these things were not available. And when we went further to find out from a food system perspective, doing analysis and trying to dialogue and fact finding, we realized that the major underpinning was actually a lack of ingredients, because most of the millers are importing soya and fish meal from Egypt, soya from Zambia and Malawi, several kilometers, over 1,000 kilometers away. And when they ship it in, they through the border, they incur a lot of tariffs, a lot of tax and transport logistics, which increases the cost of production. So this cost of production is offloaded to the farmer again. So the farmers were started dropping. We realized the number of farmers who are buying fingerlings from us started dropping. So that gave us the opportunity now to think deeper, look at the drivers, interact with the manufacturers and find out what are the issues and be able to narrow down that lack of protein was the major challenge. And that's the reason why we started diversifying from fingerling production to tackling the issues of feed as a sector.
So Fred, you mentioned there that during COVID, the supply chain broke down essentially because the main source of protein that's used in the fish feed, soya, is imported, and bringing the imports in during COVID was difficult, and therefore feeding the fish on the fish farms became, very, very challenging. Which leads me to my next question. So what is it that Hydro Victoria are doing to then solve this problem so that the supply chain of fish feed isn't so fragile going forward?
Yeah, moving forward, we thought of finding out the most novel feed ingredient that can be produced locally, does not depend on border tariffs, can be participatory where the women and youths, local fishers can also participate in production of this ingredient, and also is environmental friendly, sustainable, does not incur a lot of increase in greenhouse gas emission. And we landed on the insect called the black soldier fly. This is a magic insect that has a lot of research has been done on it, and there's a lot of hope and promise that this is the insect of the future that will help us tackle the issues of climate change, improved nutrition, as well as environmental management. So we went to ICIPE, the International Center for Research on insects, and we interacted with the researchers to find out what they know about this insect, because already we had seen literature pointing that direction. What are the mechanics, the science? How can we downscale that science to the farmer so that they can produce this insect? And that's when we are able to be trained, coached, mentored, and we are able to even be given, in fact, just 1 week training and mentoring. We are able to be given the startup kit, which came with it down, 600 kilometers away from ICIPE station in Nairobi to Hydro Victoria, which is set up in Port Victoria. Then we went through the cycle of farming this insect, which we learned. We did through a pilot. We learned that the insect grows fast within 12 days. That means farmers do not have to wait for a whole month or 2 or 3 months like other crops or other farming systems. The insect feeds on organic waste, and we are clear, we see in our households a lot of food waste, organic waste being channeled. Even municipalities, county governments are having challenges collecting and managing organic waste. The insect gives us two main products, that is insect protein as well as organic manure. In this area, we farm vegetables, we farm crops, and some of the people are transitioning because they have been using a commercial fertilizer, which is very costly. They rely on government subsidies. Now, this insect can give us more opportunities to produce organic manure at household level, and farmers can use it to fertilize their vegetables and crops. It also gives us protein, which is the main suspect in all this dialogue that we have already looked through and seen that this protein of the black soldier fly, which grows in 12 days, can be able to give us the same quality as fish meal in terms of the saturated amino acids that it's able to show. It gives us better profiles compared to the fish meal, and the fact that it also feeds on organic waste. Then we're also solving the environmental problem of waste being churned and released into the environment, leading to greenhouse gas emission and ending up in the lake. We have the lake, we fetch water in the lake, in the rivers, and we see water getting polluted. So we got concerned. So we got into this as a pilot on our farm. After 1 month, because the insect takes about 42 days to really go through the cycle, we were able to realize that this is something that we can do. Mark you, in terms of attitude, norms, and culture, people in this area also are used to feeding on insects, like the white ants and other insects. So it was not difficult to try it out. We tried it out on the farm, and we realized that this is an insect that will require a lot of waste too, because from 1 ton of waste, it can actually give you about 300 kilos of insects, and then about 300 kilos of organic manure. That's a problem solved in terms of environment. So if we can be able to do this, then it means even at the factory, at the fish farm level, even the waste we have, like from chicken dying or fish dying on the farm, or any other waste that's generated from the workers, can be channeled to feed the insect. So we went on hunting for waste around in the region, because we had bumped on this insect that converts waste into value. And we went on talking to the hotel owners to collect, so that we can be able to collect waste. We talked to the municipality market managers so that they can be able to help us separate, because one of the major issues in this region, and like many other developing countries, waste management, waste segregation is a big issue. That you find glasses and papers and metals and organic manure, organic material also mixed up together. So it gave us opportunity now to go and start intervening at the market level to see how waste segregation can be done. At hotel level, how can waste segregation be done? So that instead of all this taken to the dump site, to the landfill for dumping, we can be able to divert this into insect farming. So moving forward, we realized that we need more waste. Apart from the partnership and engaging some of these waste streams, we realized that for us to produce significant volumes of insects on the farm that we could use to dry or feed the livestock on the farm or the fish, we needed more actors on board. And we looked at the statistics, talk about data, and we realized that like in Kenya, for example, the food we eat in the hotels, in the cities, in the urban areas is all produced by smallholder farmers. There are over 800,000 smallholder farmers in the country who are producing the food we eat daily, be in the city, everywhere. So we thought if we could tap into these numbers of smallholder farmers who are spread all over geographically in the villages, they can access waste from the nearby places in the households and in the market, then it means we could produce enough insects. According to statistics from one of the reports from FAO and other partners, they have shown that Kenya is generating about every Kenyan is generating about 99 kilos of food waste. So if we could multiply this with 800,000 smallholder farmers, leave alone other people who do not participate in crop farming, then you can think of how much tons of waste is this that these individuals, 800,000, can produce. So we did want to go that far at national scale and said, let's start small. We recruited about 5 of the small farmers around in the area, who are ready, whom we see every day going to the lake and miss fish. They are looking for alternative livelihoods. So they were easy to be onboarded and try out this magic insect. So from 5 members, they kept on now recruiting each other through self-help group, women groups. So the thing has been moving about. Now we have about 300 farmers that are they train each other. We also mentor them, capacity build them, and it's more of hands-on skills. They just learn you need to feed waste. You can go on with your work, come back, collect the waste, give it the insect, then you go away. Then you know when to harvest. After every 12 days, you mark that you inoculated eggs on this date. After 12 days, you come and collect the larvae. So it became very easy with the farmers, and some of them now, because they could produce more of these, some produce an average of 10 kilo, 5 kilo, we position ourselves as input supplier in terms of egg supply, as well as training, capacity building, and also as market, so that we can produce, we can be able to aggregate. On our farm, we produce about 150 to 200 kilos of larvae. But when we tapped into this space of smallholder farmers, now we aggregate numbers coming to as high as 400 kilos only from these communities. So this gives us more volume, and we believe this is the practice that we need to use to be able to generate more insect. And luckily, also from interaction with the CIPE and Kenya Marine Fisheries, they've been working with the the Kenya Bureau of Standards to develop standards that can allow insects to be included in fish feed, as well as poultry feed and others. And those standards have come out already through some other programs funded by IKEA Foundation with the CIPE. So we want to tap into that space because standards are there, so there are no barriers limiting farmers from farming the insect. The waste is there. Municipalities are already asking, can you come and pick this waste? Can you come and pick this waste? The hotel owners are also, they've been paying money to collect have their waste being disposed, or asking municipality to come and collect. They also, so all these people who are stuck with different challenges, we think that this is the opportunity we can be able to tap in and be able to have this activity grow more numbers so that we can produce more insects. Ultimately, when you have more insects on the farm, you can be able to dry, package, and supply them to the feed millers. So we are visioning a situation where more of these will be set up, and we have a pipeline. Already we are talking to some of the feed millers, and they're interested. They have seen the literature. They know, they understand this is the insect of the future that is going to replace the fish meal and replace the soya meal, which compete with human food. But the insect does not compete with human food as it is now. Neither its waste stream or the organic waste that it feeds on compete with the human food.
Fred, you're obviously very knowledgeable in this space, and a lot of that comes down to actually living it and practicing it. But you do more than just work in this space, don't you? You also do some research. Can you just tell us a bit about what you're doing in this space from a research perspective?
Thanks so much. Indeed, having looked at these challenges that we are facing in the sector, in aquaculture and along the lake region, it prompted me to think of how, because most of this knowledge we're getting it from research, so we wanted to understand more research that's happening out there that we could leverage on as a business. And that prompted me to, with the interaction with the CIPE and ChemFree, who are mainly pure research scientists, we thought of going into their papers to read and understand what's happening. And then it helped me develop interest to proceed with my education. My background is environment science. Is the first degree. Second degree is geographical information systems. That's mapping, science mapping problems and trying to communicate back to people. Then, because of the business, which I'm really trying to drive purpose and ensure that it's able to solve some of the challenges we are facing in the food sector, I developed interest to understand this insect further. And I thought that maybe there are other products out there that I've not really realized. And that gave me motivation to develop a concept proposal through Maseno University. That's a PhD level, focusing on how to optimize production of this insect to be able to develop products that is starter feed for tilapia, which is common species grown here, as well as brooders, special diet for brooders because of the hatchery business. So all this research that I'm positioning myself as a PhD student in Maseno University, through a scholarship with the Africa UNANET, I was able to get funding for research part of it. so that I can be able to study and think of, try to get out some of the opportunities that we can be able to use and mirror some of the researches that are happening out there, so that we can infuse them into the business, as well as continue supporting the smallholder communities. And we've been working very closely with the Maseno University, who come to our farm as a living lab to experiment, pilot, design concepts that support community initiatives, that support more production around issues of food loss, food waste management, issues of circular economy, issues of aquaculture best practices, and also issues of fisheries management. So we are looking at all that space from the research perspective with the university, but I'm more keen looking at it in terms of how we can empower other businesses, and more so, not just myself as a business, but the smallholder farmers who we believe they are doing business without knowing, only that they're not keeping records. So we want them to be more empowered. We can be able to duplicate some of our business models to the smallholder farmers, and as well as other emerging medium and enterprises that can be able to take up this into the future.
It certainly sounds like this is, as you said, a magical insect, because it solves so many problems. You mentioned that it can convert a ton of food waste into 300 kg of usable manure, and then 300 kg of usable feeders as well. I was just wondering, what is the feedback that you're hearing from some of the farmers that are using this? Are they seeing any differences, any changes in their work from using this feed?
The farmers we were working with, we came up with a concept proposal, so that we wanted for them also to test some of these products. And we actually, when we are buying from them, we don't buy all the produce they're able to get in a cycle. So we buy like 70%, then 30% we encourage them to use, so that they can test with their chicken, their animals, or their vegetables. And some of the feedback we are getting from the farmers is that for those who are using this organic manure, because they always remain with organic manure to fertilize their vegetables, and they use that manure, they use the vegetables in their own households, and they can give the taste difference. And what they're telling us, that the vegetables that are fertilized by organic manure from insect-based waste, or organic manure from BSF, it does not take up much water. It uses less water, that means, and also the vegetable is soft, crunchy, and uses less oil when you are frying it out. The taste is so good, and when you look at them, the feedback from those who are using to feed their chicken, and also to feed some of the other animals, there is an element of improved biohealth in terms of the health of the gut system of the chicken. The chicken in the neighborhood could die, but those who are feeding the black soldier fly, supplementing in their feed for their chicken, they survive some of these viral diseases, or like Newcastle, that's always attacking the poultry farmers. Then also, when it comes to taste of that fish, it's very tasty. The chicken, for example, it's very tasty, and it has more nutrients. And somebody always keeps on, he wants to get more. And we tried it out also. We thought maybe the women are just giving us this feedback for the sake of it, but we supplied the hotels that give us waste. We also supply to them chicken and also vegetables. And the feedback is that it's the same. The nutrients, the vegetable taste is good, and also the chicken is good. And also we test it on our farm, and we realized that on our farm, even the chicken are growing faster. We started keeping chicken on the farm so that we try it out on our own. So the chicken is growing faster. It's also immune to several diseases, viral diseases. And chicken grows within 3 months. It's already attained a 2 kilo weight. So we reduce time, we save cost of production on the feed, like 30% of the feed when you compare to commercial feed farmers. And also we looked at it from the other perspective. Occasionally, when you have visitors, they come on the farm, they buy chicken or they buy fish, they go with it. They always give us very positive feedback in terms of the other day, one of the professor called Professor Julio Jambo, who is a renowned nutritionist in the country, a scholar at Harvard, came on their farm and to visit to just see what's happening. He comes from this area and he's very cautious. He's now 93 years old and very strong. She's very careful on the diet, on what she feeds on. And she gave us some feedback that, hey, that chicken, she doesn't know, she has never eaten a chicken like that one. And that gives us more motivation that we need to really work together, support smallholder farmers to be able to produce this kind of nutrients, both for crops and livestock.
So it sounds like a real circular economy you've got going on there. You sell chicken and vegetables to the hotels. Any food waste that comes from those hotels comes back to you, which you then are able to turn into soil, which can then help grow more vegetables and feed more chickens, and the cycle continues.
Correct. That's very circular, and we have found it's also an entry to getting to the market, because as we collect the waste, people always ask, where are you taking this? Then in the process, when you give the products like chicken, fish, and all these others, people see that, oh, this is the product that's coming out of the waste that we give. And it's more circular, and we're building more relationships, and then it's also creating opportunities, jobs for the people in the sector. Yeah.
And looking forward, so you said you've been able to reach 300 farmers to date. You're working more and more with the community and different businesses such as hotels and restaurants. In 10 years' time, what is your vision for where Hydro Victoria is going to be, and the kind of impact that you hope to have in 10 years from now?
Looking forward into the future, 10 years from now, I think we'll have grown beyond the village, beyond the county, Busia, grown beyond the lake region. We actually, by starting off from next year, we're already building partnerships with other people, farmers, smallholder farmers in the coastal region in Kenya, in urban cities like Kisumu and all that. People are interested because we have been sharing these experiences through the local radios, through the media, and people are becoming more aware that this is the practice they need to embrace. So we see a situation where we are going to influence more smallholder farmers. We are going to create more other enterprises through encouraging youths and graduates who are coming out to set up businesses along with a similar model to us. And then we play the role of advisory, capacity building, engagement, providing business development services, as well as encouraging all these people to be able to produce more of this insect and be able to feed their livestock. And then we have more volumes that we can be able to supply into the feed millers. And to reach a point in time, probably our role will not just focus on aggregation, but we'll position ourselves to set up a feed factory that is going to produce insect-based feed for poultry, for fish, for livestock, for other livestock, even dairy and all that. That's how we are looking at in terms of the future, so that we can lower the cost of production for these farmers, which currently for aquaculture is about 85% cost of production going to feed. In poultry sector, it's about 70%. So when you work on this, we lower the cost of production, we increase more, provide more food, create more jobs, and then also be able to have a better environment in future.
So you're going to spread the good news that is the magic of the black soldier fly?
Yes, we're looking forward to spread. Already we are doing that through the social media and other platforms, and we are also creating more partnerships so that we can be able to have more people produce. In fact, we realize that this is one of the business sector which does not have, you don't look at other producers as competitors, but as complementary partners, because the market is just too huge for one enterprise or one individual or one partner.
Fred, thank you so much for joining us today in the podcast. It's been super interesting to learn more about black soldier fly and Hydro Victoria and the benefit you're having on the community, and hopefully in the future, the wider country and Africa and perhaps the world. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. And we look forward to more engagement and more spreading of the gospel about this insect and the enterprise and also empowering more people to be able to participate in this kind of sustainable businesses.